Let's look at the worksheet in Assignment 9, which is not a drawing, it's just a worksheet, and the purpose of this thing is to help you practice and build your skills at visualization. It has 5 different simplified drawings of buildings here, and then for each building it asks you to think about 2 different elevations and to pick which one of these drawings represents what you would see from that elevation. I'll show you what we mean. Let's take the first one, for example. And the first question says, look at the left elevation. So we're going to come over here from the left and look towards this end of the building. And we want to think about what do we see when we are looking that direction, and which one of these thingies represents that. On this slide I have repeated that same first house 5 times, so these are all the same house, just asking you different questions about this house. So from the first example here, what do you see when you look at the left end of the house? You see this big flat end with a pointy roof. You see the side wall of this wing sticking out, and you see one side of the chimney. Okay, now thinking a little bit more, I'm going to go to this second iteration of the same building. Now we notice this left end has 2 windows in it when you look from the left. All right, so let's look at all of these little drawings and see which of them has 2 windows in the end, and a number of them do. All right, third strip down. Of the ones that have 2 windows in the end, you'll notice that some of them have an edge drawn across the wall, and some of them do not have an edge drawn across the wall. So you want to ask yourself, does your building have an edge across the wall? No, it doesn't. So these 2 that have edges, those are not correct because yours does not have an edge. So it must be one of these others. Okay, so we got 2 windows and no edge. Now let's think about the chimney. If you look from the left, you notice a couple of things. One, the chimney is stuck directly onto that roof. It's not over on some other roof, it's right on this roof. And which side is it on? The right side or the left side? It's on the right side. So now we're going to look for which of these examples has a chimney stuck directly on the roof, not floating out on some other roof, but directly on the roof, and it's on the right side of the roof. And then let's ask ourselves, all right, still looking from the left, when we see this dormer and this wing sticking out here, what does it look like? Well, we're seeing a flat wall here, and we notice there's no window in this little wall. So any of these examples that have a window in them are not the right one because yours doesn't have a window. And also you'll notice your wing has a vertical wall. It goes straight up. So this one that's hipped, that's at an angle, that would not be correct. You're looking for one that goes straight up and has no window in it. And after you sort through all of these, you discover that the only one that has 2 windows in that wall and no edge across that wall and a chimney stuck directly to the roof on the right side of the roof and a wing sticking out with no window in the wing and a vertical wall going straight up, the only one that does all of those things is picture E. So the correct answer is E. So just get in there and wrestle with these as best you can. Every time you do one of these, you get a little bit better at it, and that's the point of this exercise. I don't know whether you have heard of this idea called multiple intelligences. It was originally developed by a professor of education at Harvard named Harold Gardner, and his idea was that everybody's brain is different, and each of us is stronger in some areas than in other areas, and he called each of these areas an intelligence. So, for example, some people are really good with language. Some people are really good with math. Some people are really good with visual things and spatial representation, and so on and so forth. There's a fair bit of disagreement about whether the theory underlying this is valid. When we think about the neurological structure of the brain, maybe this isn't quite right. But what we do know for sure is that different areas of the brain handle these different tasks, and we know that every brain is unique, and each person's has a little bit more wiring in one area, a little less in another area. That's what we know. The one that we're interested in here when we do our worksheet with the elevation, assignment 9, we're interested in what Gardner called spatial intelligence. We're thinking about the ability to visualize things, to imagine an object in our mind when it's not right in front of us, and further, to be able to visualize what it would look like if we rotated it, if we saw it from a different angle, what direction is it pointing, and so on and so forth. What I want to say to you is that it doesn't matter that much whether you're strong in this area or not, because what matters is that you practice, and the more you practice, the better your skills become. Now let's say I am not strong in kinesthetic skills, and I'm small. So no matter how much I practice, I will never be a quarterback. I just won't. But I'm going to get better and better at physical skills the more I practice. You might not be strong in math. You might hate math, I don't know. But the more you practice, as starting just really simply, 2 + 2, just practice, the better you will get at it. And you may never be a mathematical genius, but you'll be better than you were when you started. Likewise, practicing visualization makes you get better and better at it. And there are a number of different visualization skills that you practice, including what direction is something pointing, what direction are you pointing, where are you in space, what does the thing look like if you rotate it, what does it look like from the back, can you mirror it, what if you unfold the flaps of a glass box, and so forth. Those are skills that you are practicing to get stronger at them. It's just like doing weightlifting in the gym makes your muscles stronger. Doing this kind of practice, visualizing, makes your spatial skills stronger. I don't know if you have ever watched Mama Raccoon educating her kits, or maybe you've watched a documentary on TV about that. Every night the Mama Raccoon picks a skill, and the skill might be how to climb a tree. It might be how to go over a fence. Whatever the skill is, she and those kits do that one skill over and over and over, all night long, for hours and hours and hours. Those kits work on that one thing. If they're trying to learn to go over a fence, they do that for like hours. And as they do it, the wiring in their brains and the wiring in their nervous system gets more developed, and these, I think of it as grooves, get laid down, and they get better and better at it. In our brains, we have neurons. Neurons are brain cells, and there are billions of them in every brain. And there are connections, electrical pathways connect these neurons. Now, if you've never done something before, the electrical pathway between those neurons is going to be pretty weak. But every time you do the same thing again, electrical signal gets sent along that pathway again, and that pathway gets stronger. And each time you do it, it gets stronger still. This is what I mean when I say I picture grooves getting laid down in your brain. It's not really grooves, but it's receptors and electrical signals. So the brain is plastic, which means the brain can be trained. And this is why someone who has had a stroke is able to relearn how to hold a fork and how to walk. This is why someone who has been damaged by alcoholism, once they get sober, is able to learn how to do basic emotional skills and processing skills again, how to regulate their feelings. This is why if you've ever learned a musical instrument, if you were like most of us, you were really bad at the beginning. But every time you practice, you lay down one of those neural pathways, and your plastic brain gets pathways stronger and stronger, and eventually you are good at it. That is what we are doing with these visualization skills.